Chairman, may I not respond to the question so that I don't incriminate myself?
Former SAA board chair Dudu Myeni continued to invoke her right to remain silent each time she appeared before the commission. The commission conducted hearings for more than 400 days since 20 August 2018. In the proceedings, more than 300 witnesses gave evidence and about 1,438 persons and entities were implicated. The report focused mainly on former SAA board chair Dudu Myeni during testimonies over the years. Findings in the report affirmed that there was a steady decline in the quality and effectiveness of governance at SAA following the arrival of Myeni and her co-board member, Yake Kwinana, who was the chairperson of SAA Technical.
She has been found wanting, especially with the way she managed that airline and how funds have been flowing from other entities through to the Jacob Zuma Foundation, from the province of the Free State. There are a number of areas where she needs to be held accountable.
The report says things turned south in early 2014 when the majority of board members complained to then Public Enterprises Minister Malusi Gigaba about Myeni's leadership. It says despite the seriousness of the matter, she was not called to account for her conduct. In October 2014, when Gigaba was replaced by Len Brown, Myeni was retained despite a barrage of accusations against her.
The ministers who were involved must also face accountability legally, and we must ensure that once the investigation takes place, because it was clear that there was a dereliction of duty. It was clear that there was political pressure being effected to ensure that certain wrong dealings, whether it was the swap of the deal, whether it was the Mumbai route, and the various iterations of how SAA came to be in the state that it is.
The investigation focused on procurements undertaken by SAA and its associated companies. The commission says it became clear that acts of corruption and fraud within state-owned enterprises usually occurred in the procurement side of the business. The report highlights heightened incidents of corruption and fraud during both Myeni and Kwinana's tenures at SAA and its technical division. It also reveals the considerable cost of state capture. According to the Commission's report, the costs are not just measured in the millions of rands lost to taxpayers, but also includes people's wrecked careers, the emotional trauma experienced by managers at SAA, and the precarious livelihoods of those who subsequently faced joblessness. The report states that Cabinet's decision-making seems to have been largely motivated by the personal preferences of a certain president.
State capture works in this way. You capture the president and his party capture the state uses the deployment committee to allow people like Dudu Myeni. You can look at the various appointment of director generals and board members who end up at many of these institutions. And the net consequence of it is that those who are meant to be protecting the resources of the state become part of the criminal enterprise or the privatization of state resources.
The report concludes that SAA depreciated to an entity engulfed in fraud and corruption during Myeni's tenure.
I think she was definitely a pawn or a serious participant in state capture. On a number of occasions, two ministers of finance had raised their concerns about her conduct in fulfilling the chairperson's role at a very important state-owned entity at SAA. And here we have that airline today struggling to survive. It has been decimated, and yet it was a very well-run and flourishing airline prior to her taking over.
Regarding SA Express, the Commission recommends that all government and state officials, as well as private individuals who were involved in the looting scheme at the entity, be charged.
Parliament failed to do its job, and therefore a State of Capture Commission was then begun. Given that the State of Capture Commission shows, it indicates not only that Ms. Myeni unduly used her influence in terms of her own connection to President Zuma and the collective ANC in that sense, it shows that for state capture to thrive, you need all organs to work together. You need the audit companies to work together. You need ultimately the political interference to work, and all the board members to be able to be complicit in what has now been seen as the looting and the mismanagement of the state airline.
Vivian Nettison, the sole shareholder and director of New Solutions, was allegedly involved in laundering 9.9 million rand of the money that the company Coroneka received from SA Express pursuant to its unlawful dealings with the Northwest government. Coroneka was placed in charge of ground handling services at the Mafeking and Pilanesberg airports. The Commission therefore recommends that Nettison's conduct becomes an important part of the authorities' further investigation into the matter.
When they do make the decision to prosecute, they do so on the basis that they have a solid and reasonably winnable case. It does not necessarily follow that they will do as the DCJ has ordained. The DCJ will make recommendations, and recommendations are exactly that. They may either be accepted or rejected.
The Commission further suggests that the asset forfeiture unit of the NPA take steps to recover monies obtained unlawfully. Nothando Makutulela, SABC News, Johannesburg.